Ultra. I'm Kelly. I'm here with Kyle. Hi, Kyle.
Hey, Kelly, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm rocking some new My Hero Academia merchandise,
Of course you
so I'm
are,
happy about that.
you nerd. What do you got?
I bought a t-shirt. It's a Bakugo t-shirt. You know, I've got to be classic Kelly. Got to get some Bakugo stuff.
Baku Babe, I like it.
Yeah.
And it's a
This
pretty
is
good shirt.
actually only my third piece of like my any kind of anime merchandise. Like
What?
I know, isn't that crazy? I
Yeah.
have one sweatshirt from Haikyuu. It's got Hinata on the front. I've got this Bakugo shirt, and I have another shirt that has like the four main characters from Jujutsu Kaisen. And that's it. Those are the only three. I don't own anything else. I have stickers, but that's it. I don't own anything. Isn't that
You
weird?
know, you just reminded me that I have a Christmas gift for you that I have not given you since
I have
Christmas.
the stickers I want to give you too. We should.
Uh,
We're both vaccinated. We could maybe even technically, possibly record this together at some
oh
point.
my God, are we on the other side of a pandemic again? I don't know.
Isn't that crazy?
What is, yeah, I think as of this past Saturday, I'm like 14 days after the vaccination period. So I'm good. If you want to make the trek out to the fucking farm now, because I'm Farmer Kyle with
Mm.
the shotgun, door's open for you.
You have to give me like the tour. I want to see some chickens. Do you have like goats? Like I want to see.
Goats, sheep, chickens, rabbits. That's pretty much it right now. And
Yeah,
several gardens.
I'll want like the full tour.
Word, we can do that.
Okay, cool.
Maybe next Monday we can record in person for once because I can't remember the last time we recorded a thing in person. It was like March or April of last year. It's
I
definitely been over
actually
a full year.
no. I remember it hasn't been that long. We recorded the OVAs. And the reason why I remember this episode is because we had not all been together. You, me, and Feds. We hadn't been together in so long that the episode is just pure ridiculousness. I just laugh through the whole thing. Like, I don't make any sense. It was just the most ridiculous episode we've ever done.
I kind of remember that was over the summertime, right?
Mm-hmm.
All
And I
right.
remember I laughed really hard because you said the word shaft, and I died.
Yeah, I got a thing for using real funny words. It's like part of my bit, but I'll have to check out what those OVA episodes were because honestly, I do remember that you came over that day, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been seeing Feds throughout the entirety of this pandemic. It's been my little bubble, but
Yeah.
I do remember you coming over that day, but I don't really remember how the episode recording went. So
God, it was a mess.
maybe I'll pull it
In
from
the
Dragon
best
Ball
way.
Super Dope feed and put it on this feed as a bonus episode in the not so distant future.
It would be really funny, I think. But it is like warning. I just laugh. I feel like I ruined the recording because I just do not shut up. I laugh through the whole thing.
Hey, you're having a good time. That's all that
I
mattered.
did have a good time. It was fun.
Cool. Well, we'll see if we can get that old OVA as a bonus episode in the not so distant future. Maybe by the end of the week. I have a full plate this week, so I'm not making any promises to you, the listener. But we are talking episode 95 today for My Hero Academia.
Yes.
Match 3, because
Match 3.
in case you lost count of how many matches we've gotten through over the last 7 weeks or whatever.
And we still have quite a few to go. This is like the never-ending arc.
Yeah, I was saying it to you before we hit record. Like I asked, when did these manga chapters come out? And we're thinking that they probably came out at least a year ago, maybe closer to 2 years ago. Who knows? But this, I alluded to it last week too. I think this is in terms of filling time in a story or in the canon timeline for My Hero Academia. They're taking a play from Dragon Ball and what they did in the Tournament of Power and how
Yes.
they managed to make 48 minutes of that canon timeline take 30 effing episodes. They're doing like a
Yeah.
scaled down version here with this this arc in My Hero Academia where it's like we got this one afternoon of a class and we're going to have 5 different fights, but it's going to take us at the current rate probably like 10 to 12 episodes. So 3 months. Cool.
Oh, gosh, I know. I can't believe it. Especially because when they were first talking about the way this was set up, each fight is supposed to only be 20 minutes. So you're like, oh, 20 minutes. Like we could kind of go through them quick, but they drag them out. Oh,
They
my
do.
goodness.
And this episode teased me a little bit because by the end of it, I'm like, wow, we finally got a one and done. We finally had a fight that was super one sided and the other team wasn't prepared and we just
No.
cut some time out. And then you get to the end of the episode and it's like, nah, fuck you guys. You think we're going to
Yes.
be respectful of your time? No. No, we're not.
Also, they like gave up on naming the episodes because this episode's just called Match 3 and the next episode is just called Match 3 Conclusion. Like, come on, guys.
I mean, if you don't have to overthink it, why would you,
I
right?
guess. Sometimes simple is best, but I'm irritated with this episode, so I'm just gonna like apologize to everyone in advance that I'm gonna be probably a little bit more critical than I normally am, but I feel very similar to you, Kyle. I just feel like I just want them to pick up the pace a bit. Like, I love all these characters so much, I really do, but I don't need to see two parts of all of these fights. Like, and all of the recap, it really is
It
grating on
it's
me.
really the recap that stuff that
Mm,
bugs me, I think. Although this week, I
it
will
was
say,
shorter,
it was shorter, but they also decided to pick a fucking fire piece of music for the background, which is
which helped.
it's one of
Yeah.
my favorite OST track or OST tracks. Is that how I should say that? From the My Hero Academia soundtrack. It's just called Hero A. And I remember the first time I heard it, when we first started watching the series during season 2, it pops on at a random point, I think during the sports festival, and it's like this
You're
drum
such a
machine.
musician.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like this drum machine, my hero. And I was like, oh shit, they put in some weird lyrics on this song now. This is
Mm.
gonna make me feel uncomfortable. And sure enough, I felt very uncomfortable, and I did not think much of the song back then. However, I've since had the My Hero Academia OST make its way to my Spotify recommendations. Oh, hello, kitty. Uh,
Yeah, he's gonna bug us.
it's cool. Make its way to the Spotify recommendations, and now it's like one of my favorite songs ever. I just groove to it in my head all the time, or in my headphones, either or.
Nice.
So at least they
I
softened the recap for me on that one. I appreciated that.
I never even give like a second thought to the soundtrack. Like music only impacts me like when it pumps me up or when it makes me feel kind of sad, but I just feel like it enhances the mood and then I never think about it again. Like I never think like about the soundtrack of things.
I constantly think about the soundtrack.
Yeah, you're definitely a musician and I have no musical talents at all.
If you guys like
Anyway.
the opening song of this podcast, that's a me on a guitar.
Yes, it is a
Mario.
Kyle.
It's a
Kyle on the
me.
guitar.
So,
All right.
how does this stupid episode start? Oh yeah,
It
recap
starts
with some
off.
fire music. Duh.
Yes, recap. We get our intro. Then we get a little glimpse of our mushroom girl, Kumori. Right? I didn't write their names
No,
down again. So
Komori's good. Yeah.
Kumori. And she's like feels bad. She's like, "Oh, Tokoyami, do you want to have a cough drop? Like, my bad. I tried to murder you. Like, sorry about that."
She's
And
such an
he's like,
about face from like I will literally kill you. I don't
"I know.
care. To like here, have a cough drop. I feel bad.
Sorry. You should go get some medicine. My bad about that." So I was like, well, at least she tried to make some amends, you know. And we have to take a break. Like there was so much damage to the arena, and there are all these mushrooms that aren't going to disappear for a while. So they take a quick break, and all the students chat. And I'm already like, I'm so irritated. I'm in such a bad mood already that I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna not even start the fights right away. Like, this is bullshit. I'm so pissed.
Not only do they constantly reuse, like, the recap thing is an obvious reuse, but we talked about it last week with the Mina Ashido signs against bias
Mm-hmm.
commentary. I noticed another weird callback that they've gone back to probably 3 times now in this batch of episodes, where a robot is like carting somebody off to the medical facility or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, these stupid humans. What do you mean they
Yeah,
can't get
they get
stronger without
injured.
training?
Yeah.
Rescue doctrine is, and then it cuts away. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that robot wanted to say rescue doctrine is bullshit. And I wish,
Just keep it. Just put it in.
it would have been really fun if they could have let that one go and it wasn't a kid show. But it's just strange that they keep going back to the same kind of things over and over. Vlad is another good example. Like he's constantly
I
yelling and
know.
being upset about the same things. I can't decide if it's intentional callbacks to be like, oh, remember that from a couple of weeks ago? Ha
Like
ha.
filling stuff in.
Or yeah, they're just padding it out for an extra 10 to 15 seconds. Either way,
Yeah.
it's a little annoying, I think.
I
Except the
agree.
robot line was good.
I mean, I think the robots are kind of funny. Whatever, like. But yeah, I agree about like the teacher, Vlad. I'm like, oh my God, like, why are you so two-dimensional? Like,
Why are you trying to be present Mike so badly? Shut up.
no, like, relax. Sorry, as I throw my cat off the table.
Relax. I'm going to throw this cat if you don't.
No, people will think I'm mean to my cat. My cat is so spoiled. I feed him like 8 million treats and I get him like the best food and I just am like, do
And
everything he wants.
that's why your cat's all on your face right now. Like, hey, I don't care that you're making a podcast. I want some
Hmm.
cat treats.
Sometimes I treat my cat like he's a person and I'm like, are you a person trapped in a cat's body?
What's your cat's name?
Sneak.
I am. Sneak,
Mm.
sneak, sneak. Shh. That's
I'm
an old
like, are
school
you?
Harley Quinn joke for my Batman the Animated Series fans.
Oh, and they tiptoe, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Good call.
I used to watch stuff when I was like young. I haven't watched any kind of superhero, Marvel, whatever, in a
It's
long time.
DC, Kelly. Let's not
Oh
fight.
my God, sorry.
You should know the difference between Marvel Comics and Detective Comics.
Why should I?
I don't think that you should. I don't care that you do or don't. And, Boku no Hero Academia.
Yes. So we get to have like the first All Might and Midoriya interaction in quite a while. And All Might sneaks over and he's like, oh, I just need to borrow young Midoriya for a
I am
quick word.
I am
You
here
know,
quietly.
I'm here. Yes, he's so extra.
Don't you dare
Might.
be mean to my friend.
I won't. I'm not saying anything. It's fine. I was so happy to have anything to shake up this episode because
For sure.
I'm just really sick of the monotony. So
I'm just tired of seeing kids kick the shit out of each other. I just want to see some other characters for
who
once.
thought I'd ever say that? I don't want to see kids get beat up. I mean, words I never thought would come out of my mouth because I like that stuff normally. Like, come on. World Star. All right. Anyway.
Beauty.
So he pulls Midoriya aside and he's like, hey, how you feeling? Is your quirk being weird? Like, I've never heard of anything like that. I can't remember my successor ever saying anything, so I'll have to ask Gran Torino about it. Which I'm like, all right, cool. Maybe we can get some answers out of Gran Torino. And then this show lately is just so unsubtle. Like, he was like, oh, we're gonna see Shinso, and the last time we saw Shinso, like, we saw the other vestiges, so, ooh, watch out, what's gonna happen? And I'm like, oh my God, why do you have to spell it out so much for us? Like, we can infer that this is probably gonna happen. Like, you've already mentioned it so many times. We get it.
And we definitely talked about that a few weeks ago too, didn't we?
Yes, because they mentioned it then.
Oh, okay. So they did mention it then.
Yes.
It wasn't us bringing it up unprompted.
No, Midoriya literally says, like, the last time I saw the vestiges, Shinso was there, and Shinso's here this time. What a coincidence. It's like, okay, cool, they mention it. Like, you don't have to mention it again. Like, leave us to have something to, like, wonder about. Like, I feel like they're just, like, hitting us with a sack of bricks.
Yeah. One thing that I sort of liked about, or at least remember liking about early My Hero Academia, is they do kind of let your imagination try to figure out what the end is going to be or like how you're going to get to the end product with some cases.
Right.
They don't just like give you a consistent, and maybe it becomes increasingly more breadcrumbish along the way as we get through the seasons. But we're to a point now where it's like they may as well have a goddamn billboard being like, yo, go fight Shinso because something's going to happen.
Something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we know, we get it. So I'm like not starting off this episode with high hopes. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. And then Bakugo comes along and I'm like, all right, at least this episode has a little bit of Bakugo in it so I can have like something good come from it. And even him, he's like, yo, you guys are like not subtle. You're like, hey, keep our relationship with me and Midoriya a secret. Like, don't let anyone know about it. And he's like, well, you guys should try to maybe be like a little bit more low key because like you're not exactly low profile. And
you're being way too obvious. You trust me with your secret and then you're sneaking around like this out in the open. Like the talking to that they get from Bakugo. And like All Might even quivers in fear too because he knows that the dude is totally right. Like quit fucking around, man.
Seriously, like wait until after the match or like talk on the phone or something. Like don't be pulling him aside all the time. Like
in class in front of 40 other students and a couple of other teachers.
So I'm like, okay.
One thing that happens before the Bakugo dressing them down though is when All Might comes over and taps Midoriya on the shoulder and asks to speak with him. I think it's Mina is like, wow, they've been spending a lot of time together. And
Yes.
Uraraka fills in the details because she's got the deets about how
Oh yeah, I forgot
they've
about
been
that.
working with each other a little bit more since the end of the sports festival and all that. And Mina makes the comment, "Oh, of course you have the deets," and then she just catapults her up into the air like without really much choice because she gets so embarrassed she just
Yeah,
accidentally
float
elevates her up.
away, please.
And I think Mineta yells at her like, "Yo, don't blow your load on your quirk before the match." And Mina Ashido, being the eternal optimist she is,
She's just
she's like, "Who
having some
cares if I'm like 50, 60 feet up in the
dance
air?"
moves up there.
She just starts doing her breakdance moves,
Hell
breaking,
yeah.
breaking. That was probably, I know that I keep trying to have like a log of like favorite quick moments in the show, and that one's
Mm.
definitely, I'll say top two because I have another one we'll get to later. But
Okay. Yeah, I forget about that. I oftentimes forget about that just because like there are certain characters that I care less about, and so then I sort of like write them off, which is not fair to
in that
them.
scenario, is it Uraraka that you care less about or
I just feel
Mina?
like she's so boring. Mina's like one of my faves.
I
Okay.
know. That's why I was asking. I thought maybe your opinion had changed on her or something.
No, I'm just like waiting for her to kick butt like in a fight. You know what I mean? I feel like that's when she's best. But no, I just forgot because I was like, oh yeah, Uraraka, like, I
Don't
don't
be
even write
mean.
it down in the notes. That's why I
Nope.
forget.
That's why I make my own separate set of notes that are no
Mm.
way as detailed or linear. I just kind of write things that make me laugh.
No, that's perfect because
That's my
then when
rule for the
I,
show.
yeah, when I skate over something, you're always like, hold up, wait a minute.
Skirt. Plus, I have like
Skate,
that
skate.
weird, I noticed too many things and can't shut the fuck up about them. That's why I make podcasts about anime.
Nice. Me too. Me
Soup it
too.
up.
We have like some fun little Bakugo and Midoriya. They sort of are having like a friendshipy kind of moment because we've got like that sad violin music. I mean, Bakugo's sort of just like, yo, when are you gonna get stronger? Like, I can literally wipe the floor with you. Like, you're supposed to be this great hero with this great quirk. Like, get it together. But,
Yeah.
to me, that's kind of them being friendly. You know what I mean?
All Might says it like, "Oh wow, he's showing compassion in his own way" or something, and then he's like, "I'll
Yeah.
fucking kick your ass. Why don't you get a handle on your power, idiot?" Like, "Ah, never mind. He's still Bakugo. It's cool."
Yeah, but that is his way. I mean, he went over and checked on them, which was like,
Yeah, I kind of like that because like as you get to know All Might in the first couple of seasons, you see the relationships that are important enough to him in his life that he has to share the secret about his injury and
mm-hmm,
loss of his powers, and he's reduced to 3 hours a day. And I think the first person we really see that with is probably Recovery Girl, Principal Nezu.
mm-hmm.
Eventually, we learn that somebody like Sukayuchi's in on that whole scenario, and he knows all about it. For Deku to have Bakugo be like that first person in on the secret,
Mm-hmm.
it adds a really cool, interesting dynamic to their relationship in a way where
Yes.
it's like Bakugo almost has to treat him with respect now, even if he fucking hates his guts most of the time. Things that could arise because of Deku and who he is and who he's connected to and All Might have such greater implications on the world that Bakugo knows that he needs to be on that team. Like that's the right team to be on, even if he hates even if he hates Deku. He needs to learn to get along and be trusted with the secret and be a useful. I don't want to say partner. That's not the right word,
Like
but
an ally.
ally, better word. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that it's definitely, the start of something. I think it'd be really cool if they could like work together. Doesn't seem necessarily like that's the way they're going with it right now, but I really like Bakugo, so in any way that we can have more Bakugo,
I
I'd
don't know.
be
Sometimes
real
like I
happy about
think
it.
of seeing these young heroes and like what their professional hero careers will be once they're out of UA.
Mm,
And it's very realistic that Bakugo and Deku become the next version of All Might and Endeavor. Like
yes.
that's the most realistic thing in the world to me.
Almost all of the fan fiction where it's them like grown up and as heroes have the two of them like as the number one and number two hero.
And Deku's obviously one, and Bakugo's two, and the personalities too. I mean, I realize that Endeavor is Todoroki's dad, but Todoroki's a child of trauma, and he is
Yeah,
nothing like his fucking dad. Bakugo
but
though, hot headed, much like early Endeavor is.
does
So,
have a similar personality.
how much fan fiction are you reading though?
Right now, a lot less than I was approximately 6 months ago. which was probably the same amount I was reading when I was like 14.
Right
Which was a
now,
lot.
I'm not reading
A
any because
lot
I'm
less.
recording this podcast, but I do
Right at
have
this
some
moment.
very strict plans
I have a few
afterwards.
tabs that I have to like close out of here real quick. No, right now I'm not reading anything, but probably like in the winter, I don't know, I have like seasonal depression and there isn't shit to do, so I just like read a
I
lot of
just
stuff.
sleep through my seasonal depression.
I have like responsibilities. I have children. I can't do that.
Oh
They'll
yeah,
burn
I'm
my house
sorry.
down. Man.
All right. So nice interaction between Deku and Bakugo and All Might
Yes.
for sure. I loved it and I want to give them all hugs. Except
Yes.
Bakugo because he's scary.
Yeah, and he wouldn't take well to it, I don't think.
Fuck that. He would hug me back.
Oh, okay. Anywho, we see, like you said earlier, we see Momo. She's getting like carted off by these robots. And this was my favorite part of the episode because it was so like cringy and weird. Is that Recovery Girl's like, oh, she'll be fine in half an hour. No worries. You've got such a young body that helps you heal so quick. You've got this supple, nice skin. I'm
Peachy
like,
peachy.
oh, gross.
I don't
But
understand what the word peachy peachy means, but I do understand that it's associated with young, good looking girls. And that's all thanks
mm,
to Master Roshi back in the day. Muten Roshi represent. But I heard Recovery Girl call Momo a peachy girl, and I was like, oh no, that's an
no.
adjective that perverts use in Japan. What are we gonna do?
I was kind of like, should there be like a supervisor in there with them? This is
Yeah,
weird.
this woman kisses students for a living. We have to have a talk about this
I know, I
position
was
she
like,
holds at
did she
UA.
consent? I don't like this. So that was my favorite part of this episode, honestly, because I thought it was really funny.
Nice.
So we're going to finally start the match. They move the match a couple blocks down because of all the damage. So they're like, we're moving the Choki, the little prison. They're moving it down a couple blocks.
Call it the Choki, like from Matilda.
Yeah, isn't that what it says on the jail?
Oh, I didn't see if it said that on the side. I thought you were just doing a weird Matilda reference
Well,
that nobody
I
would get
am a
except
little
me.
bit.
Word.
I am a little. But also, I do think that's what it says on top of the jail, but maybe it doesn't.
I guess we have to check. You'll have to check it out and grab a grab of it for the Instagram
Screenshot.
at Super Dope Plus Ultra. Go follow Kelly.
Go follow me. It's so fun. I love when people follow me. Anyhoozle. So we see Deku. He's like talking about it while they're moving the match. And he's talking about how this next round for 1A is a really balanced team. And I like that we have Midoriya to say these things because, I mean, maybe it would have come to me later on, but I like when he just like spells it out. So he's like, oh, this team's really well balanced. We've got Ida, who's got a lot of speed. We have Todoroki, who has very like wide range attacks. We have Ojiro, who's really good with close combat. And we have Shoji, who's really good for scouting. So this is like a really well balanced team with like all the sides covered. So I was like, cool, what's up? And then when they're on their way over to go start the match, Tokoyami pulls Todoroki aside and is like basically acting like he's passing the torch on. He's like, hey, it's up to you now. And I was so confused. I was like, are these two like low key really close? And I just never knew. But it's just because they were both under like the number 1 and number 2 heroes. So he's like, we've got to be strong because we are trained with the number 1 and number 2 heroes.
It
I
was
thought,
it's a quick moment. It's an awkward moment at
it's
first because you're like,
awkward.
okay, wait, what?
I
But
know. I was like, are they friends? What is this?
what is this? You guys are friends all of a sudden? Fucking friends? Jeez. I think when he explains why he's saying it, like we both train under the 1 and 2 heroes,
Hmm.
it makes me question whether or not Tokoyami is like the most sincere member of Class 1A next to maybe Deku.
Or like jabbing at him, kind of.
I didn't take it as a jab.
I don't
I took it
know.
maybe like because we bust on him for being like the Prince of Darkness emo kid all the time. So this could
Yeah.
just be his like weird neurotic way to make the next fight about him too. Like I just lost this one and I've brought shame to Hawks. So you, Todoroki, cannot bring shame to me by losing because Endeavor and Hawks have this connection and you and I have this connection by training with them. So don't fuck up and make me emo again.
Make sure you
Like
win.
like it was one of those
What?
two things. Is he really sincere or is he super neurotic?
I was sort of like, why are you dredging up the trauma of his dad? Like, that last fight because he was like, after that last battle. I was like,
Yeah, it was weird how he referred to that too, wasn't it?
don't
The
bring that
last
up.
battle.
Yeah.
And like the way, I don't know, the way he said it, I didn't think too much of it because it just meant like the last battle that we saw a big hero have in the public eye. So I was like, okay,
Yeah, that's
fine.
true.
But when Todoroki repeats it back after he, walks away from him and it's in quotes, the last battle, huh? I was like, maybe there's a little bit more to the way in which he just referred to it. And then there's the plus ultra
Yeah.
prominence burn flashback and another. At least it's a fucking cool flashback for this part of it.
I mean, yes, I agree. I was like, awesome. We get to see Endeavor when he's wicked kick ass. This is so cool. But then in the same flashback, I'm like, bro, we also see Endeavor when he's a super douchebag and like is horrible and I really don't like him. So this is conflicting. Why are you doing this to me?
Yeah, I kind of love and hate that flashback
Me
because
too.
like you see all of the abuse that Todoroki had to go through, Shoto had to go through when he was a baby.
Poor little
And
kid.
at the end of it, it's like he finally comes out of like his little haze or his trance or whatever, playing the memory back in his head, and everyone's like, "Hey, are you okay?" And like Todoroki is probably oversimplifying this, but he's a trauma victim. He had a very
Yes.
traumatic childhood. So
Yes.
those types of flashbacks and 1,000-yard stares and complete zone outs are 100% consistent with victims of real trauma. So I just
Yeah,
like that.
PTSD.
I just like that they kind of work that little part of it in, and he does his Todoroki thing and says, "No, it's fine. Thanks for asking. I'm a very nice
Yeah.
boy with a very monotone facial features."
It was actually Ida who asks him. And I was impressed with this because Ojiro is like, "Oh, how'd you even know to ask him? His face is like so flat." And he's like, "I'm the class rep and it's my job to make sure that the class is good, so I pay attention." I was like, "Ida, you are sometimes the best." I'm
Ida's
not
the
gonna lie.
MVP of this episode for me.
Later on, not right now because I don't want to get into it right now, but later on in this episode, I was like, bro, with fucking Ida. Okay.
Brutal.
So, bro, like, yo. But Ida does get to mention really quick that his brother's doing better, which I was really happy to hear because we kind of forget that he went through that sort of like traumatic family problem where his brother like went through this huge injury. I like when they like bring it back up so we don't let it like go off to the side. His
I
brother's
certainly
doing
didn't.
better.
I certainly didn't forget that it happened, but
Mhm.
I mean, like the best genius argument we had a year ago. Like I would have told you that his brother died, but
Oh
no,
yeah.
he's alive. Surprise.
Yes, but it seems like he was. I think he's wheelchair bound now, though. He's not going to be a hero ever again, so that's sad. But at least he's doing better, and I was glad that they brought that up.
And the cool part of that flashback too is that we know that
Mm.
Ida has the real Ingenium suit. I say Ingenium because
Ingenium, I say that too.
but the Japanese definitely says Ingenium, and I just
Yeah.
can't decide on which way to say it. So it's
I think
Ingenium for
Ingenium
right
sounds
now.
better. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
think it
feels
sounds
more
better.
natural to say. But he has the real Ingenium suit now, as opposed to I guess the knockoff one he had
Yeah, like his school
earlier in the school
version.
year. Yeah.
He says a quote here. He said when he's talking about his brother, because he's like, he took on his brother's hero name and stuff, and he says, I have the strong spirit of the successor. And this hits hard for Deku, who it flashes back to him and he quotes it again. Strong spirit of the successor. So again, we're like not being very subtle, but it's very clear that there's going to be some stuff about being the successor for All for One, like One for All, whatever. Is it All for One? One for All. Which one's which?
See, I got you fucked up on that now too, don't I?
It's One for All.
One for all
Right.
is good because we are serving
Good. 'Cause
all
you're
of the
giving
people.
everyone. Right,
If
right,
it's
right.
all for one, that is bad because one asshole gets all of
Gets
the
everything.
things.
Right.
Yeah.
So it just kind of like reiterates that we're going to get back to that at some point. So I was like, all right, guys.
We get it. It's a recurring
Yeah.
theme. Move along.
We get it. We have the halfway point, and when we come back from the little halfway, we're not in the school. I was so happy to get away from this class to see something different, some new scenery. I was like, oh my god, a highway. This is amazing.
Fucking love the highway. Love it so
Well,
hard right now.
traffic. It's so great. And we kind of get to see a glimpse of Endeavour doing some hero work. So there's a villain. He's like trying to escape. They're tracking him down. Endeavour kicks some butt, before he can hurt any little kids and stuff. And he's doing all his hero work. And for me, this was so funny because he's very distracted. He's like looking at his phone. He says, "Oh, with Natsu's help, I was finally able to friend Shoto." Like, become Facebook friends with him or whatever, like, friend him. And you see his phone, and he's got all these texts to his son that are like, "Hey, let's chat. Like, oh, call me back. Like, I want to talk to you. How are
Please
you?"
respond to my messages, Shoto.
And Todoroki's just straight up leaving him on red. I'm like, you reap what you sow. Sorry. Like, he does not have to answer you, so just get over it.
You know what, though? You totally glossed over the important part of this scene. Like, the reason that part of it hurts so much, or at least hurts me, you seem to be pretty much indifferent to it. The reason that scene works for me is because so much of Endeavor to this point has been like, wow, what a dick. People are afraid of you. Who cares if you're the number one hero? Like, you're not a very nice guy, and that does not instill confidence in the public.
Yeah.
This scene, he takes off that dude in the motorbike with his two sidekicks. They all team up together to do it. He saves a little boy, or checks on the little boy afterward to make sure
That he's
I should say the
alright.
little boys walk up to him, which
Yeah, the kiddos.
yeah. And his first response, "Are you okay? Okay, be safe on your
Go
way home."
home. Yeah.
And like, you can see that he's making a concerted effort to be a better hero in his line of work.
Yeah.
And like, you have that moment of at least I did. I had a moment of like pride and happiness for him. I'm like, all right, cool. You're trying to stay true to what you said you're gonna set out to do, and try to fill the shoes of All Might in a way other than just the rank, because that's what
That's
it's
true.
been.
They really don't let you just have a good opinion of him, though, because they show that flashback again where he's like, being really, really, really abusive to Shoto. I feel so, he's like crying and sweating and like, it's just horrible.
And then that flashback kind of doubles it up too, because he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't run away from who you are, Shoto. Toya, right?
Toya was close.
Toya was
Yes.
close, but he had
He
more
almost had it.
firepower, but he had raised weak constitution. And that's why, who knows what happened, but
They're talking about prominence burn because he wants Shoto to be able to do prominence burn. They're like, you have to learn this move. Like, this is like the ultimate move. Like, you have to learn it. And the way they keep talking about it makes me feel like it's pretty heavily implied that what happened to Toya had to do with his training, maybe? Because remember how in the other episode, they're not Natsu. Is Natsu the other boy, the other son?
Natsu's the son, Fuyumi's the
He's
daughter.
the girl. So remember how Natsu's like, you're a dick, you were never around. Like, you always pushed us all too hard. And
I've
then
only
that thing that
just
happened with
learned,
Toya.
yeah, that thing that happened with Toya.
And now how they're mentioning Toya with the prominence burn and how he had a weak constitution and he almost had it. It makes me feel like he had some kind of really horrible training accident and like,
they had to send him back to the children warehouse or wherever the fuck they got him from.
Yeah. So I was like, this is like not
Either way,
so hot
him
for
being real
Endeavour.
sad about his son kind of leaving him on red after we see a very good example of him trying to be a better role model to small children.
Yeah.
And like you said too, like it's set up against flashbacks of him 15 years ago beating up his kid or whatever. So
Yeah.
not a great look. Pretty fucking it's definitely a dichotomy of fucking situations for him, but I don't know. I guess I'm rooting for the dude to be better, even though he's been a piece of shit.
I definitely agree. I do think it's nice that he's trying so hard. I think that he needs to give it time. People don't just like up and resolve trauma overnight. Like, that shit lingers. So
yeah, it does.
We have that just to spice it up, to change it up, which is great. So then we go back to the match. And we have our 1B team. Do you want me to go through the team, who they are?
Yes, I do.
All right. So we have my fave of the four, Tetsu, whose quirk is Steel. And his hero name is Real Steel, which I think is a really cool hero name. I like it a lot.
Solid.
Yeah, I like it. I do. I get it. I like it a lot more than Red Riot, Kirishima's. But that's just because Red Riot makes me think, it reminds me of something uncomfortable.
Oh, is it like a
Yeah.
period joke or something?
No, maybe I'll tell you
Oh,
later.
okay.
And then we have Kiyobara Sen, and his quirk is called Gyrate. And
Oh boy, did I
oh
see
boy,
lots of fucking suggestive memes about
I
this
know.
dude
I
in
was
those
like,
horny Facebook groups this week.
and his hero name is Spiral. Then we have Honenuki Honenuki Juzo. And his quirk is softening, and his hero name is Mudman, which I think is also a really cool hero name. I was like, nice. And then we have Tsunotori Pony, and her quirk is called Horn Cannon. And hers is the only one that they didn't tell us what her hero name was. But I went on the internet and I looked it up because I was like, I don't want to have 3 hero names and not the 4th one. It's not going to hurt anybody if I Google it.
What's her hero name?
It's called Rocketti. So like confetti, kind of Rocketti. Like rocket, the horns.
Oh,
Rocketti.
okay.
So that's her hero name.
I think my third favorite moment of this, the Shoto Facebook confirmation being my second moment. I think my third favorite moment is with Pony Girl, whatever the fuck her name is, not Pony Boy. Not to be confused with Pony Boy.
Oh, yeah. Tsunotori.
Pony Tsunotori, right? So there's this moment where Tetsu, which by the way, we kind of did it last week and how it's a very like inconvenient name to have to say the first and last name for.
I like it.
When they do his little intro and like do his quirk revelation and President Mike does his name.
Yeah.
Instead, it's like the funniest fucking not abbreviation, but like he just says it so fast. It's just test.
I know it doesn't sound like his real name. It's
test,
like a shortened version.
It's basically what we were saying last week. Like
Tetsu.
so funny. But there's a moment where he just starts to, crash through all the walls of this new block that they got through.
Yes.
And Pony Girl has this weird moment where she just starts speaking in English.
Yep.
And then Spiral is like, "Oh man, Tetsu, you have her so upset that she's speaking in English." I actually liked it so much that I had to grab a quick sound clip of it, so I'm gonna play it. And the only reason I do this for this right now is because 50% of the lines are in English spoken by a Japanese person. And it was just like the weirdest, like most meta little comment, but it had me thinking about this Pony Girl. So hold on.
Tetsu doesn't mean any harm. In fact, his approach plays to our strength.
Okay.
Tetsu doesn't mean any harm. Like
that was my favorite part because he sounds like the robots in the beginning that are like, why do we have to replace human parts?
Oh my God. So why does she start speaking English? Like she has a Japanese, I guess, last name when they give her first and last name. But before they give the last name, I'm like, oh, is this an American hero student who's going to UA? Is that why she just busted into English accidentally? But it doesn't seem that it was. And then Mudman talking because he's so adaptable on the fly with his planning and everything. And he says that English back, man. Oh my God.
I don't know about her being like a foreign student in Japan, but I do know that like in Japan, they learn English.
Yes.
So maybe she just likes to say certain phrases in English. Maybe when she gets pissed off, she's like gonna start shouting at people in English. I don't know, but I thought that was a really funny moment too. And my favorite like person out of all of this is that Mudman guy from 1B. He's very smart, and we hear that right away because 1B doesn't have any scouts. They're like, we don't have any scouts in our team, so what should we do? Tetsu's like, I'm just gonna smash everything down and they'll come running. And they're like, no, they're gonna think it's a trap. But Mudman says, they'll probably come. That's what I would do if I were them. They have Todoroki, who can have wide range attacks. They've got Shoji to scout. They know what's going on over here. It seems like the best course of action. And I was like, wow, this guy's got their plan already like pinned down.
he very much plays that same role that Kendo and Momo played for their teams last week.
Yes.
And he's got I would say, I don't know if useful is the right word, because Momo's quirk can be very useful, but he's got a very versatile quirk, I'll say, in terms of battle or in terms of being, you could use it for a million different things in the course of a battle, but he has that tactician mindset that Kendo and Momo had last week that they put so much emphasis on. He's really fucking funny. He speaks English with a good accent. He's got a useful quirk. But we also learn at the end of it is that he was one of Class 1B's recommendation spots.
Yes, like Todoroki and Momo.
So there is definitely something more potentially to how good this character could be, or like what the upward ceiling of what that character's hero potential could be.
Yes. It makes me wonder a lot about his background, because I know that, Todoroki obviously endeavored as his dad, who had been the number 2 hero for so long and is now the number 1 hero. With Momo, I don't know if they ever talk about her parents being any kind of like prominent hero or anything, but they're exceptionally wealthy. And she has, a really cool quirk. So, money is power. So it does make me wonder about this Mudman guy. I'm like, I wonder if he has like a family member who's in the hero world, or if he has like some kind of influence somehow. It makes me curious about him a bit more.
Or he could just be somebody blessed with a really powerful quirk and who studied hard and worked hard. I'd like to think that's the case, but you're right. It's usually about who you know and who you're related to in this hero world and, the real world.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I did write it down, but I forgot that he was the recommendation spot. This is why this works. So Team 1A is like, we're going to hop in there. Team 1A, because we didn't actually say it, but it's like Todoroki, we have Ida, we have Shoji, and Ojiro.
Super balanced.
Very balanced, yes. So Todoroki just goes in there, lets loose with his ice. And it looks really impressive, and everyone's always like, oh my god, Todoroki with his crazy ice. And Uraraka points out, like, hey, he's really improved on it, because he's got it doesn't block his vision like it used to. Like, it used to just be like a big wall of ice and you couldn't see anything. But now it's like sloped, so he can see and has like a better view of the battlefield. So I was like, all right, Todoroki, getting better. Good for you.
I see you, buddy. Even you have room for improvement.
Yeah, of course. And so they run in to like go fight this battle, because they're like, oh, we froze the ground. You can't make it soft now. Psych, because he turns it into like jello ice. Like, so I guess that this Mudman guy can soften the ice. And instead of it melting, it turns into like this weird like pudding texture, and they're all stuck in it. So they're like, well, we weren't expecting this. What do we do?
And
Ida,
the first person he really traps is Ida. Who decides to go full. I mean, the cool thing about this battle was because Tetsu being such an idiot and then being like, fuck it, I'm just going to rush right in. They don't really have the ability to take us head on like that. Even though they might, they all just kind of decide, all right, fuck it. Yeah, okay. If you want to rush in, I'll rush in too.
Yeah,
and Ida hits his recipro burst. And you're like, oh no, Ida, you going to your final move this early in the game, dog?
Seriously.
Sure that's a good idea.
And so he sinks too. Like, and the Mudman guy is like, yeah, I also softened the ground underneath the ice, so you're gonna like sink real deep. And he goes,
so you in hell, chump.
Yep. So while Ida is like out of commission, the spinny guy, Sen, Spiral, he attacks Ojiro. So now Ojiro's contained in this battle. Like, they're in a fight. And the pony girl can use her horns to, like, move them around. She can control 4 horns at once. So she, like, pins Shoji off to the side. And then Tetsu attacks Todoroki. So we're like, well, shit. Like... That's that, I guess.
Game, set, match. All right. See you guys next week. Wow. This is the end of match 3. We finally had one and done in one episode.
I was like, wow, we just got our asses kicked real quick. And I kind of was thinking to myself, like, well, that's got to happen sometimes, I guess. There's going to be battles where we're just not well equipped, I guess. And
Even the best teams in any sport will get blown out by somebody you wouldn't expect
sometimes.
every once in a while.
Yeah.
If it had happened in this arc, I'd have been like, Jesus Christ, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you,
mean,
Jesus.
I kind of was like, oh, well, I guess they're going to have it with Todoroki's team. Going to knock him down a peg, whatever.
And that honestly would have been a pretty nice little foil to Todoroki, who, for the most part, since he's gotten to high school at least, everything's more or less gone his way.
Yeah, he basically always kicks butt. Like, he doesn't really ever lose.
But honestly, we talked about it a little bit about Sue a couple of weeks ago, Asui, how she's one of the few characters who comes into UA. When you first see her in the USJ incident, she's very much a fully formed, I won't say hero, but she's very fully formed in terms of her abilities and her capabilities. Like, she's aware of what she can and can't do.
Right.
Ida and Todoroki are definitely in that same bracket of people who came in on the much higher in the column in terms of like being fully formed as a potential hero.
I feel like it's like maturity, like quirk maturity in a way.
Yeah, quirk maturity, exactly. Not necessarily always personal maturity, because Ida has, that huge lapse of judgment moment where he goes,
quirk.
Yeah.
Quirk maturity.
Good choice of words. But to be able to see Todoroki and Ida not get a super easy layup win and have them have to overcome some adversity in this, even though I'm desperate to get to the fucking end of this arc already, it makes sense for them to do it because, they need to overcome some adversity every once in a while.
I agree. So I was like, okay, well, that was a great episode, and see you next time. But it turns out, if we remember, Ida had been saying during their little group up meetings, he was like, hey, there's something you guys should know about my quirk, about Recipro. Is that what he calls it?
Recipro burst.
Recipro burst. He's like, oh, there's something about it that you should know. And he doesn't tell us. So now we learn what it is. Ida has been training. He was like with his brother. His brother tells him like, hey, you're growing up, you're, maturing. It's time you learn our family secret. Oh, God, I kind of feel sick.
It is pretty fucking brutal.
He's like, you need to give your engine a tune-up. And what you do is you rip out the mufflers and then train so that stronger mufflers grow in. And they show us, and Ida's got like a cloth stuffed in his mouth because he's like biting down on it. Oh, and he just rips so hard.
He's just sitting out in the woods by himself
in his
chewing on a
uniform.
cloth, ripping the mufflers out of his calves.
Out of his legs. And they like leave a gaping hole. It's like bloody. Oh, it was really gross.
It was.
But I was also sort of like, yo, Ida, my respect for you has just gone up so high. Like, holy shit.
Seriously, I watched that and I'm like, yo, Ida, that's fucking metal, dude.
That was so metal. I was like, yo, are you the most badass motherfucker I've ever met? Like,
most badass motherfucker with a pair of glasses and a side part, yeah.
With an engine in your legs. Like, oh my God. And then, because he had said like, oh, you pull him out and then you train and that's how you have like stronger one grows in. Do you think he had to do that multiple times or he just pulled them all out once?
No, he had to do that multiple
times, right?
Yes.
That's what I thought too.
So I took it almost, I hate using Dragon Ball Z as the comparison so frequently, but like every time they get a little bit closer to death, that like kind of, speaking of Saiyans and Zenkai boosts for the listener, like the potential of where their power can grow to raises a little bit higher each time. So I kind of look at what Ida was doing in those woods and being like, yo, how many sets of mufflers has he ripped out of his thighs?
Oh, me
2,
too.
3, 4, and each time he does it, he gets
he brought the cloth because he learned from the last time. That's what I think. I was
he
like,
probably ripped out his first ones and was like, I almost bit my tongue off or something. I better bring a cloth next time.
Shouting my head off. Oh, gross.
Yeah, so that's how I look at it. He probably has ripped at least 3 or 4 sets of mufflers out of his calves by now.
Yo, yikes, okay. So I'm watching this, I'm like, oh my God, I cannot even believe they just showed this in this show. Pays off though, because he's like, I've been full throttle this whole time.
Yeah.
And now he has, I think, what was it before? He only had like 30 seconds or like 1 minute before.
And
of his
now,
boost.
since being trapped in Mudman's softened, ice it's ice, but it's
Well, then
softened
he
version.
refreezes it.
Okay, so he refreezes it.
Because the quirk works is you touch something and it becomes soft, and when he touches it again, it returns to normal.
And that's what traps Ida in the
Yes.
frozen ice. But Mudman is like, I don't want to say he's a dick about it, but he's very
was.
matter of fact. And he's like, hey, idiot, you're going to use your final move at the beginning of every fight? Not a good idea.
Yeah,
Anyways, I'm going
wasn't
to go help
smart.
my teammate. Peace.
See ya.
And that's when Ida's like, that was a long time ago, Mudman. And my thing about Ida is like
He's
the
so extra.
earnestness. Extra's one way to say it, but like he's so earnest to me. And like the headspace he has to get himself into to really be able to go full out against these other students.
Villain.
You villain. And when he tells him like, that was a long time ago, Mudman, I'm like, oh man, how many times have these guys faced off in the past in their long storied history? Oh, that's right. Never. And Ida's making this fucking up in his head. And that's when he tells you, I've been at full throttle this whole time. I can go upwards of 10 minutes now. And he's basically been full throttle under this frozen ice so that way he can bust up out a bit and deliver an ass whoop into Mudman's stupid masked face.
Yeah, he doesn't even come out of the ice. He just uses his
Shatters
robot
it.
body to just shatter right through it. I was like, yo, this is crazy. And his new move is now called Recipro Turbo. This is like his finisher move.
Turbo as fuck.
Turbo as fuck. Have you ever seen the movie Turbo?
I don't know that I have, no.
It's about
What's it about?
snails.
Okay, definitely not that.
That-
Kids movie, I presume?
Yes.
Got
It's
it.
about a snail that gets like an engine put in his shell and he becomes like a race snail and he literally races in a car race against cars. Sorry.
Yo, you said a race, and I thought it was going to end with ist. But no, it was snail.
No, he
He's a
literally
race
like goes to like NASCAR
snail?
race or whatever.
So it's like cars, but with the snail.
Yeah, it's cute. I like it actually.
Lightning Snail McQueen.
One of the snails is like totally supposed to be Snoop Dogg, and I love Snoop Dogg, so.
Is it voiced by Snoop Dogg?
No, but it's a very similar sounding voice. Because I Googled it. I was like, yo, is this fucking Snoop Dogg in this kids movie right now? Yo, I have to tell my kids about Snoop D-O-double-G. You know what I mean? And I was like, but it wasn't. It was just some other guy.
I mean, you can still tell your kids about the D-O-double-G.
I will. Probably.
Snoop Dogg.
Snoop Doggy Dog.
So that's pretty much the end of this ridiculous episode.
Yeah, that's where it ends.
We do get a preview for next week. And again, before the end of this episode, I think we both were thinking, oh my God, we're going to have a match wrap up in one episode. How great is
I was
this?
so happy.
And then no. And we look at the preview for next week and it looks like I like to look at the previews each week and look for, even though Deku has his narration that kind of tells you what the episode will be about, they will cut in other things where it's like, oh, I'm going to see Endeavour next week. Oh, I'm going to see Hawks next week or something like that.
Yes, I do that too.
The little cuts for this week seem 100% based on just the fight.
Yeah.
And we know that Ida has some shit to overcome. We know that Todoroki is going to use his left side. One thing that, and I imagine it has to play into Todoroki's finale here for this arc or this match, but when they're running in, he like sneezes real quick and everyone's like, hey, you never get sick. What's that about? And I don't know, like you don't show a gun in a play in the fucking first act unless you've got an intention to use it at the end. Is Todoroki gonna get sick or something at the end of this fight?
Okay, you know how I am, I don't like to spoil. That was literally just because his dad was talking about him. You know how they say, yes, because they were like, he was like, Shoto, answer me. Why aren't you answering me? Shoto, Shoto. He's like screaming it. And they're like, yo, school started. They're in class, like back up. And then they go back and he sneezes. It's just because they were talking about him.
Real, like I don't think I've ever heard that. Like I know, were your ears ringing? Somebody was just talking about you, like that expression or whatever. But sneezing because somebody was talking about you, I don't think I've ever heard that one.
I'm like 99.9% sure that's what it was.
Word. I was just curious if Shoto was going to catch a cold at the end of it, and that's why he can't use his ice power and has to use his fire power.
I think it's pretty, for me, I feel like it's pretty obvious that he's going to like try to do the prominence burn. Like they just keep mentioning it throughout this episode. They're saying like your ice isn't going to work. Actually, earlier on in the episode, Honanuki, the Mudman guy, was like, oh, if you had come in with fire right away, we would have been toast, quite literally, because we wouldn't have been able to do anything about that. I feel like they just imply it so many times, like, that's what he's going to do. So I think it seems pretty obvious. Like I said before, I feel like this episode really just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like this whole episode was so unsubtle. I was like, okay, we get it that Todoroki's going to use his fire. Okay, we get it that something's going to happen with Shinso in Midoriya. Like, okay, I get it. Like, you don't have to keep mentioning it.
Get on with it.
Yes.
To quote the great Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
But, I mean, it looks like it's going to be an action-packed episode next time, which is always fun.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be a satisfying one with some cool stuff because, man, this arc has been just fucking retread on retread on retread.
You know what would be the best? And I hope that they do it, even though they didn't show anything like this in the preview, so this is just me being wishful. But it would be really awesome if the conclusion of match 3 is the first half and the start of match 4 is the second half. That'd be awesome.
Now you're wishing for miracles, Kelly.
I'd be really happy if they did that.
I would be too. I just don't know if we're that lucky.
Because
I feel like we were lucky this week to get a fucking moment and a half away from the fight to go see Endeavour.
Yeah, no, I know, me too. I was like,
Seriously.
Oh my gosh, different scenery. This is amazing.
Yeah. All right. So episode 96 next week. Match 3 conclusion.
Match 3.
So birthdays this week. Technically there is a character who has a birthday this week, and I'm gonna read it to you and tell you all about it. But full disclosure, I don't know who the fuck this person is.
And I don't know who this person is either, so...
So May 10th, Monday, May 10th. Hope you had a good Goku Day if you celebrate. Mawata Fuwa. That's Mawata Fuwa. Mawata Fuwa. It's her birthday today, May 10th. And she is a student at UA. She makes her manga debut in chapter 254. And she is a student in class 2A at UA High School, training to become a pro hero. I'm not going to read what her appearance is about because it probably might spoil something. So I'm not going to do that. But I asked Kelly if she knew who this was before we recorded, and she's like, who the fuck? Show me a picture.
No idea.
She's like a super inconsequential character.
Yeah, who is that?
Just so happened to get a birthday assigned to her for whatever reason.
I have a quick question.
We don't even know what her fucking quirk is. Like, that's how unimportant this character is.
And she looks super generic. She's just like got mid-length hair. Like very just plain.
It just looks like a character sketch. It doesn't even look like like a panel from a comic book. Like
anyway, no, it really was just a sketch. I was like, I don't know who that is, so cool.
Yeah, right?
Happy birthday to you. I have a question for you because
Sure.
I never think about this kind of stuff. But so 2A, who do you think the homeroom teachers are for the other ones? Do we ever find out? Like, obviously the other teachers are homeroom teachers for certain classes, right?
I would think, yeah.
So, like, who would be the 2A? Do they ever tell us?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't think so.
You know what I'm kind of curious about? When class 1A graduates to class 2A, and 2A goes to 3A, so on and so forth, will Aizawa still be their homeroom teacher?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I feel like it's one person stays with their class for 1, 2, 3, and then starts off with a new class at the end. That's what I think.
No, that makes sense. And the reason I ask too is that person Muwata Fua or whatever the fuck her name was.
Yeah.
Her appearance, basically she just makes a comment about Aizawa and how Aizawa's face like looks less angry than when she last had to deal with Aizawa, and it makes sort of a reference as to how he expelled an entire class a few years ago.
Right, yeah.
And I guess like that's why she's aware of who he is in the first place. So I don't know who her homeroom teacher could be, but hopefully it's somebody cool. It's probably somebody we haven't met. Although I don't.
You think so? Wouldn't it be like Midnight or like
it could be
Ectoplasm or whatever? Like
it could be any of
them?
those. Yeah, it would make sense for every teacher to have a homeroom, right?
Right. Like if you're a teacher at UA, you probably have a class that you're like.
Except All Might wouldn't have a homeroom because he's a first year teacher, probably.
Right.
But Aizawa. We haven't seen Midnight. We haven't seen Present Mike. We haven't seen Ectoplasm. We haven't seen fucking what's the space rescue
Cementos. 13.
13.
Mhm.
Cemento. There's a ton that we haven't seen whose homerooms are whose. So
You know what? Those
could be
little
anybody.
kids, those little kids we saw earlier, I thought one of them looked like, I was like, are you Cemento's son? Who are you?
Oh yeah, he's got the square fucking head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like that lady whale from SpongeBob.
It does. Pearl.
Pearl, that's her name.
Mm.
I like whenever they do a little bit of it in the first few episodes, like flashbacks to I think when Deku's getting bullied by some kids who have some I don't want to say some transmogrification issues going on, but they definitely have like wings and tails and shit like
Yeah.
that. And these kids too, like one of them has a beak, one of them's
Yep.
got a fucking pearl head, and I think one of them has a tail.
Yep.
I love seeing stuff like that.
Me too. I kind of like it too. I'm like, oh yeah, this world's full of a bunch of different people.
Anthropomorphic, borderline anthropomorphic, because it's not like they're full on animals, right? I don't know how words
I
work.
don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot to handle. So yeah, we've got some stuff to look forward to for next week, hopefully.
Hopefully.
And by some stuff, I think I mean maybe we'll get the conclusion of match 3, and maybe
Maybe.
we'll get the start of match 4.
Oh my god, here's hoping.
Yeah, I'm
I am
not
looking
exactly.
forward to some other stuff. Like, I'm definitely looking forward to Bakugo's fight because you know me, I love Bakugo, but also because I really like Sero and he's in that group, and I just feel like they're going to work together well. And then obviously, I am looking forward to the 5th fight. I think that'll be interesting. We've been leading up to it, so.
Imagine if like Deku and Shinso's fight like happened like match 1.
And then we can
And
just
then-
like skip the rest
And then the rest of the arc was just them sitting around waiting to get to the next arc because nobody cares about what happens after that.
Yeah, I was like, of course he's gonna be in the last match.
Deku, the main characters in the last match? What the hell? How unexpected.
I mean, they did do that actually for the sports festival. They had him in that first round.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
100%. But I remember having that conversation, I think, with Carlton. And I was like, seeing the trajectory that Deku's on right now, somebody who breaks all 10 of their fingers and considers that a good match, there's no way that they can realistically have this kid win the sports festival and expect me to continue watching this.
Right.
And they do a wonderful job in fulfilling exactly what I just said. He has the moment with Todoroki. Todoroki beats him anyway. Fucking obviously, he's Todoroki and Deku's breaking his goddamn fingers all over the place. But they did a really good job, like kind of mitigating the expectations on that, because it would have been real easy to just have Deku somehow win. And nope.
Yeah, it would have, because he is really powerful. And then some people would have even expected it because he's like the main character, but
Would have made sense. They probably would have forgiven, but you know what? They had enough foresight to not do that.
Kyle, so no spoilers. We're not going to talk about any spoilers, but do you sort of know, just from like things on the internet, do you sort of have an idea of like what's coming up in this 5th fight, like with Midoriya?
No, legitimately, I do not know what's about to happen with this fight, but I do sort of know as to what's about to happen with Deku's quirks.
In general, okay.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, I wonder if people are expecting what's going to happen or not. You know what I mean? The one downside about reading the manga is that you really aren't surprised by anything. And then sometimes when stuff is coming up, I'm wondering to myself, like, are other people kind of expecting this? Or am I just expecting this because I know?
Well,
I feel like
you still have an element of surprise when you watch the anime week to week. It's just a different sort of element of surprise. You're more wondering about, you know, how are people going to react to it, or how are they going to translate it from the page to the screen? As where I'm just like, yo, what's going to happen? They're going to fight each other again next week? Wow.
fight.
Fight. World Star. That's the
I
second
literally
World
would
Star
be doing
drop.
that. If I were in this school, I would be doing that all the time. I'd always
just
have
be
my phone
fighting.
out.
Be
Yeah.
fighting kids at lunch. Just
World
being,
Star.
World Star.
World Star. Seriously.
Do you really watch World Star fights, Kelly?
Hell yes. I watch MMA fights and stuff. I watch World Star fights.
World Star fights and MMA fights are two
Very different
completely fucking different
Kyle,
things.
the
So
things
I don't know
I've
how
seen
you
on
just
the
loop them in.
internet- I've seen some things on the
Seen some
internet.
shit.
Yeah,
All
that
right,
I won't
well,
share.
Okay, well, we'll spare the listener right now Kelly's traumatic internet experiences.
Yeah.
If you've enjoyed the show this week, I would encourage you to go leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and write
Yes,
something
please.
nice, and I'll read it. Because there's nothing to read this week. Okay.
Bow, bow,
Okay.
bow.
Wah, wah. Sad trumpet. If you enjoy the show, rate and subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Tell your My Hero Academia friends about it. Fuck around, find out, subscribe, whatever the fuck. And we will see you next week.
See you next Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Damn it. I forgot about the see you next Tuesday joke.
How could you forget?
I don't know. I mean, I used to host an open mic night every Tuesday for like 5 years, and I used to end every single Tuesday night with a see you next Tuesday. You'd think it'd be like second nature, but I just kind of forget that this comes out on Tuesdays because we record on Mondays. So, yeah. Anyway, gonna raise my hand with the peace sign, and I'll see your ass next Tuesday.
I wasn't nearly as complainy as I thought I would be.